Jebusites, Canaanites, there's all kinds of names in the Bible. Gomer, all those are different names. Ishmael, those are names, those are nations. So when brothers ask, what's your nationality, you're supposed to be able to go into the Bible and find out who we are. But we're not taught that in the system. So that's the reason why we relegate ourselves to quote-unquote black. And there's no such thing as black people, just like there's no such thing as white people.
Right.
Right. So what we out here to do, bro, we out here to bring you back your nationality. We're here to show you and educate you about who you are. You understand? Sis, you know who you are according to the Bible? Do you know your nationality according to the Bible? What's your race according to the Bible? No, not according to the Bible, it's not. There is no black race in the Bible. So my question again is, what's your nationality according to the Bible? Hey, bro, come, bro. Let me holler at you right quick. What's your nationality in the Bible, bro?
I'm gonna have to say between Egyptian and African.
Okay. African ain't in the Bible. Nowhere. Egyptians are. That's a nationality in the Bible. But African is not, right? Okay. Let me ask you, why do you say Egyptian or African? Why is that? Why do you think that?
Well, what I remember, the African, didn't most things originate from Africa? You know, wasn't Africa a dominant country back in those times? You know.
Okay, the landmass as now known as Africa, yes, it was a dominant land, yes. Right, yes, but all the people that live in that landmass aren't the same race of people. Sis, don't go nowhere. Don't go nowhere, sis. Come on, sis. Don't try to slide out, sis.
I gotta go to work.
You gotta go to work. And what time? How much time you got? Okay, sis. All right. Check the fly out, sis. All right. bro. So all the people of the landmass that we know as Africa today, right? They're not all the same race of people. They're not all the same nationality.
Right.
You understand that, right? So in America, that's how we're taught here in this country. That we're taught generally that everybody that's from Africa or that's dark is the same. That's not the truth, right? So Egyptians are one race of people in Africa. And there's a lot more, right? So my question is, which nation do you come from that's in the Bible that was living in that landmass called Africa today?
Bring it up.
That's a good question.
Okay, let's show you. First, we're going to give you a definition of Ham, because when you refer to African, right, you're talking about the people of Ham, right? We're going to show you that the people of Ham, we are not the people of Ham, right? Read that.
Compact Bible Dictionary.
So this is a compact Bible dictionary. It's a scholar's book, right? Let's read what the scholars understand and know about the so-called Africans and our people, right? Read.
The definition of Ham, the youngest son of Noah.
Do you know who Ham is? You know who Noah is?
Yeah.
You know he had the three sons, right? Shem, Ham, and Japheth, right? So Ham is the youngest son of Noah, right? Well, the middle boy, right? Read.
Born probably about 96 years before the flood, and one of 8 persons to live through the flood.
So he was one of the 8 people that lived through the flood. That's right. He had Noah, his wife, the 3 sons and their wives, which is 8, right? Read.
He became the progenitor of the dark races.
Progenitor, that word, what does it mean? The forefather of, right? He's the progenitor, he's the father of, right? He's the father of what?
The dark races.
So he's the father of the dark races, right? Are we a dark race? Are we a dark race? We are, right? Read.
Not the Negroes.
Not the Negro dark race. So in this land, in earth, give me that sign with the Negroes for sale. What were we called here? No, in old time. What were we called? What were we called in old time? Negroes, right? Read that again. Read that again.
And one of 8 persons to live through the flood.
Look at that sign right there. See? Negroes for sale. See that? So when we came on the ships, they were calling us Negroes, right? The one on the bottom. You see it right here? It doesn't say Africans for sale. You see that, right? It says Negroes for sale, right? Read it again.
He became the progenitor of the dark races, not the Negro.
Not the Negro dark race, though. He wasn't the father of them. Read.
But the Egyptians.
The who?
The Egyptians.
Well, you spoke about the Egyptians, who we are not. Read.
Ethiopians.
Ethiopians. Read.
Libyans.
Read.
And Canaanites.
These are all so-called African nations, right? Read. That's all. So, you understand? So,
There's a point that need to be made. In order for the scholars to say that the so-called Negroes, because they're the ones that named us, that's the reason why they put that word on us, because they knew that we were not Hamitic. In order for them to say that you did not come out of Ham, that means they had to know where we came from.
What?
And they have all the history locked up in their libraries and all that. That's the reason why it's almost a crime for you to get too much information in school. That's the reason why, quote-unquote, black history is so controversial, because you might bump up and find some truth. And they said we don't want to wake these slaves up. You understand? Come on.
They definitely don't tell the whole story.
Right. So what we out here to do is to show our people the truth, the whole story, to show you who you are according to God, because you're not an Hamite, you're not an African or an Egyptian like we've been taught. Because the common teaching in American schools is what? That Africans sold Africans, right? That's not the truth.
Bring it up.
Africans or Hamitic peoples sold the Israelites, who
Right.
are also a dark-skinned race of people.
Right.
You understand, right? Read that in between. Give me the difference between Egyptians and. So Africa is named after the so-called white man. You know that? Did you know that? What white man is it named after?
You said what white man?
Yeah, it's a white man's name. Africa, the word Africa is a so-called white man's name.
Bring it out.
That's his last name. Leo Scipio Africanus. He was a Roman general who conquered Hannibal in the Second Punic Wars. When he conquered Hannibal, they named the landmass that you now know as Africa after him, Africa. So how do you come from a white man? So are you African? No, you're not. Read this. Watch this.
Exodus chapter 11 and verse 7. But against any of the children of Israel,
Read. Who are you so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans? Read.
shall not a dog move his tongue against man or beast, that ye may know how that the Lord doth put a difference.
The Lord puts a difference between who?
Between the Egyptians and Israel.
We are different. The Egyptians and the Israelites are different races. Yes, we're both dark-skinned peoples, but we're not the same. We're not the Egyptians. We're not the Ethiopians. We're not the so-called Africans. We're not the Hamites. We are the Israelites according to the Bible.
That's right.
Now, real quick, we're going to show you how we know we are the Israelites according to the Bible, right? We're going to show you that. Give me that Deuteronomy 1:1.
Bring it out. Deuteronomy chapter 1 and verse 1. Bring it out. These be the words which Moses spake unto all Israel on this side Jordan.
So who is Moses speaking to in this verse? Read it again for the brother.
These be the words which Moses spake unto all Israel.
Who is Moses talking to? To Israel, right? Sisters, y'all understand that? Y'all follow along? So Moses is talking to who in this verse? Read it one more time for the sisters.
These be the words which Moses spake unto all Israel.
So Moses is speaking to who? All Israel, right? So the book of Deuteronomy is to the Israelites and the Israelites only.
Right?
Let's find out what Moses spoke and said to the Israelites. Deuteronomy 28:1.
Deuteronomy chapter 28 verse 1. And it shall come to pass, if thou shalt hearken diligently unto the voice of the Lord thy God.
So Moses says we listen to God, to his voice, which is this Bible. Read.
To observe and to do all his commandments, which I command thee this day, that the Lord thy God will set thee on high above all nations of the earth.
So you understand that? It says that if we obey God, God will set the Israelites above all nations on the earth. We would be above all other people on the earth if we obey God, right? Read.
And all these blessings shall come on thee and overtake thee.
So the agreement is, if we obey God, all these blessings will overcome us, right? Now let's get the flip side to the contract. Because in every contract you have the positive and the negative of the contract, right? So here's the negative end of the contract. Read.
Verse 15.
Read.
But it shall come to pass,
Read.
if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God,
So Moses says if y'all don't listen to God, if y'all don't obey him, read.
to observe, to do all his commandments and his statutes, which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee.
So it says all these curses shall overcome us if we don't obey God, right? So let's read some of the curses, right? To see if we fit the curses, because this curses are going to go on Israel, not nobody else, not the Chinese, not the Japanese, not the East Indian, not the Arab, only Israel, right? So we're going to read some curses and see if the curses apply to the so-called Negroes, the so-called Hispanics, Native Americans, or somebody else, right? Read verse 32. No, matter of fact, 46.
Verse 46, and they shall be upon thee for a sign and for a wonder.
So God says through Moses that the curses are going to be on our people for a sign, right? So what does a sign do? What's the job of a sign? What's its purpose?
Sign.
Well, if a sign, what does it do? What do I need a sign for?
Direction.
Right, it gives you direction. It identifies something, right? Like we know that that's the AC Hotel Charlotte because that sign says it's the AC Hotel Charlotte, right? So God, through Moses, saying that the curses would be signs for us to know who the Israelites are in these last days, right? So read.
And for a wonder, and upon thy seed forever.
And the signs, the curses are going to be upon us forever. Read. Upon our seed, meaning upon us, then our children, our children, our children, right? Read.
What's up? No, go ahead, give me back to him 32.
Verse 32, thy sons and thy daughters shall be given unto another people.
So one of the curses is that your sons and daughters will be given to other people, right? So let me ask you a question. In history that you know of, what race of people had their sons and daughters given to another race of people? Who that happened to? Look at the sign, brother. Who that happened to? So-called Negroes, right? So-called Hispanics. That happened to us. See, our sons and daughters, aren't they being sold off to other people? Right? So the Bible says that the Israelites would have that happen to them if they disobeyed God. Read it again.
Thy sons and thy daughters shall be given unto another people.
So that's one of the curses that God forewarned us if we disobey him, that our sons and daughters will be given to other people. Read verse 48.
Verse 48, therefore shall thou serve thine enemies,
So the Lord says you're going to serve your enemies, right, Israel? Read.
which the Lord shall send against thee, and hunger and
In hunger. He says you're going to serve your enemies in hunger. When you want food, who do you go get food from?
White man.
Do you get food from your own people? Name a store that we own that sells food. Name a plant that produces food that we own.
I don't know it.
Right. God says your enemies you're going to have to go to for food. Read.
right, and in thirst.
And in thirst, when you want a drink of water, when you want it out your faucet at your house, if you don't pay your water bill, who cuts that off?
Right.
You? Your people? You said the city, right? Who owns the city? Who owns the government? Who owns it?
Bring it out.
That's right, your enemy, right? Read.
And in nakedness.
And in nakedness, the clothes on your back. Do your people make the raw material to make clothes? The cotton, the silk, the linen. Do we produce that? No, we don't. God says you're going to go to your enemies to get those things. That's a curse. Read.
And in one of all things.
And in the one of anything you want. You got a driver's license?
Yeah.
You do? Where'd you go get it from?
South Carolina.
Yeah, but who runs that?
The government.
Right. Do your people do that? When you want to get an education, did you go to a school that was ran by your people?
No, there is a couple.
But the curriculum is that's taught, and we make it up? No. Right? So the knowledge you're learning is not your own. You understand? The history you learn is not your own. So God says you're going to go to your enemies for the one of all things. Anything you could possibly think of, you have to go to another race of people to get it.
That's right.
Do the so-called white man have to do that? What about the Asians?
Wake them up.
Do they got to go to another race, or can they go to their own race? Oh, think about it. I want you to think, because you thinking. Do they go to another race? Okay, for example, here in America, when the so-called American white pays their bills, are they paying it to us or to their own race? Exactly. You understand? What about taxes? You pay taxes to the government, which is owned by white people, right? When they pay taxes, it's been paid to who? To their own people. The Bible says you're going to go to your enemies in the one of all things. Us and the so-called Hispanics, we're the only ones that go through that. You understand? Read.
And he shall put a yoke of iron upon thy neck.
So God says the enemy that he's talking about, the enemy, is going to put a yoke of iron around your neck. Who did that to us? Because God's identifying the enemy in that verse. Who did this? Okay. So what does God call? Read it again. Read that part again.
And he shall put a yoke of iron upon thy neck.
God says, and he, your enemy, shall put a yoke of iron upon your neck. So God calls them what? The so-called white man that did this to us. God calls them what? Read from the top.
And he, therefore, shall thou serve thine enemies.
What's the word God used right there?
Thine enemies.
What does God say? Your enemies. They're your enemies, brother. The ones who did this are your enemies, God says. That's according to God, the Holy Bible. That's what God says.
What?
That they're your enemies. You got a question?
What verse is that?
Read it. Call it read.
Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse 48.
Deuteronomy 28, 48.
Can I say something?
Yes, sir.
You know, I love when brothers say, what verse was that? What book are you reading? Because they never heard it. They never thought that the Bible would actually personalize you. Because our people have been taught that we were nothing for so long, and then here comes the Bible, the greatest book on the planet Earth, and it's literally talking about you. The Bible is your book. Our people have been made to think everything else except that. But you're literally the stars of this Bible.
That's right.
Literally.
Is King James?
Yes. But King James didn't write it. So I already know where our people's minds start to go. Could King James prophesy what we just read there? Did you hear what I just said?
Yeah.
Did you read the 68th verse yet? You go into it? Can I get a little bit of it? Give me verse 16, just a little bit.
Bring it out.
Bring it out.
Verse 68. And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships.
Egypt is a Greek word which means bondage. Okay, I'm gonna break that down for you. Hold on, I'm gonna need your fingers to move around a little bit. Exodus 20 and 2. This is what I'm about to show you. The first 5 books of the Bible is recorded in chronological order, meaning Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. 5 books. Exodus was the second book of the Bible. That's when the Israelites was released out of the bondage of Egypt. You understand? That's what we're going to read now. Read.
Exodus chapter 20, verse 2. I am the Lord thy God, which have brought thee out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage.
It's telling you what Egypt means right there. Egypt, out of the house of bondage. Okay, that's what the Greek word Egypt means. When you look it up, they just tell you that it's some landmass in northeast somewhere, but they never tell you the actual meaning of it.
Right.
The meaning of it means boundaries, restraint, misery.
That's right.
Okay, it was from Ham, one of Ham's sons named Mizraim.
Right.
That's what the Egyptians are. Read it again.
Exodus chapter 20, verse 2. I am the Lord thy God, which have brought thee out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage.
Out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. So we were coming out of bondage then. That was in the book of Exodus. Now let's move 3 books forward. When we're well past Egypt, we're in the wilderness now. Moses is speaking to the Israelites. That's what he was reading in verses about the yokes of iron and all that. That's what that was being said. This also was being said what we're about to read here.
Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse 68. And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again.
And the Lord shall bring us into Egypt again, meaning that you're going to go back into bondage if you break these laws. That's what Moses was telling us. Read it again.
And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships.
But this Egypt, you're going to get there on ships. That's crystal clear.
Right.
Who's saying this? God through Moses. It ain't got nothing to do with King James. King James is just King James, and the scholars just had it translated from Hebrew to English.
Word.
Go ahead.
By the way whereof I spake unto thee,
In other words, it was going to happen exactly the way we've been reading it.
thou shalt see it no more again.
We have not seen our homeland, Israel, no more again. We don't even know that that's our land.
Right. And there you shall be sold unto your enemies for bondmen and bondwomen.
Did you hear that, brother? Come. You got to read that. And I know the glasses, because sometimes the glasses might not focus the words right, so you might want to adjust them when you read it again.
And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships.
On ships, cargo ships that they put us on.
By the way whereof I spake unto thee, thou shalt see it no more again.
We will not see our homeland no more again.
And there you shall be sold
And when we get to this new Egypt, we will be sold
unto your enemies
unto our enemies.
for bondmen and bondwomen.
Do you see that? Bondmen and bondwomen. That's what this is showing you here. So this prophecy actually became history in the 1600s. So who's the Lord talking about? Talking about us. We're the Israelites that the Bible's talking about.
That's right.
Now they will see the true men of God. We are not black men, we are the Israelites. Take care of us. And our children too. We have repented. How are you? People want to know who's the king.
O nation of Israel, it's time to return to the Father. O nation of Israel, it's time to return to the Father.
Now why they trying to make it so hard to serve God? And why when I say that I'm a Jew, it sound odd? For years I've been walking around saying that I'm a black man. I ain't saying that no more, it sounds wrong, man.
This is Bishop Nathaniel of Israel United in Christ. Please subscribe to our YouTube channels. Stay up to date with our latest events, music, and classroom lessons. IUIC plans to continue visiting different countries where this gospel has not been preached before. IUIC needs your help in pushing this truth. So join us. Subscribe to our Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and podcasts, and stay up to date with us. For more information, please visit www.israelunite.org.